All right, everyone, welcome. Ignite final session blast off. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to continue. All right, so in the last 12 weeks, we've done an Ignite session every single week. And this week, we're kind of wrapping it all up. We're kind of putting everything into play. This is where I want, everybody that's listening or on here with us or listening to the recording to kind of think back through your beginning pieces of real estate. If you haven't gone through all of the Ignite series and all of the Ignite videos, you will start to feel lost, because Ignite has 12 sessions, and each session goes through the entire gamut of real estate. And that can really paint that clear picture around what real estate is, how to start to interact with buyers, how to start to interact with sellers, how to set up your business, how to time block, how to be self-accountable. We are all in a self-employed industry. It means nobody's got our back. All right, you guys got to understand that. A restaurant that opens up, a mom and pop restaurant that opens up, who has their back in order for them to fail? And who has their back if they fail? Nobody. The owners, the people that own that restaurant, the owners of that business are the ones that have to keep that afloat. You guys are there as well. All right. Even if you guys want to look at a franchise, say you want to open up an Outback Steakhouse, the franchise owner, yes, they may be backed by Outback as far as the policies and models and systems, but it is up to that proprietor to make that franchise successful. And so that example is exactly what Keller Williams is. Keller Williams is the Outback. You are that storefront owner. You get to call the shots and make the decisions, but comply with license law or KW license law. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it, but you have to set your business up and comply with license law. But it's your business, it's your storefront, it's your shots. It's your job to make sure that your restaurant sustains. And Ignite helps build that foundation and that base. Today, we're going to talk about that sustainability, the habits that hopefully watching these videos, going through and actually playing all in your real estate business, we've started to develop habits and things and ways to look at real estate, ways to look at the days, right? And so today we're gonna end with that. How do we sustain where Ignite is done for you? Now that you're through this, what does my week look like? What do I need to focus on? When do I need to set up calls with my coaches? When do I need to pivot and shift my lead generation tactics? When do I need to continue my lead generation tactics, but tweak a few things that I do? We're going to get through all of that today. Starting with blast off, I want to hit home again on the what the Ignite calls the daily 10-4. The daily 10-4 is what you guys need to figure out a regiment for yourself every day, a success plan, a thing that allows you to understand that when I accomplish this for the day, I can be done and I can feel good about my day. Because in real estate, let's face it, we get excited about a lead, but we get down on ourselves if we go a day without a lead. We really need to get to a place where our days look like we win when we execute X, Y, and Z. And if we execute X, Y, and Z, that's a win. If X, Y, and Z produces a byproduct of a potential buyer, a potential seller, a potential investor, a potential person that goes and wants to get their licensure, or a potential database member, you guys got to understand that those are byproducts of your actions. Celebrate the actions over the byproducts. Is Julie Osborne on here? I want to pick on her for just a second. All right. Well, we have an agent in our office who has been working methodically. She's in the Firestone office very, very routinely. And she's been working on trying to figure out herself. She's been with us for a couple of weeks now. And she's been doing the effort. She's been putting in the action. She's been struggling. She's been, doing everything that we all do. She has a mountain of things she has to do along with lead generating. It's easier for all of us to text than it is to phone. It's easier for us to phone people than it is to sit there and meet up with people. But she's working through her mind. She's working through all of that. And bam, she got her first lead in her first 3 weeks because she's been methodical about this endeavor. But one of the things that I noticed that I wanted to make sure she corrected in her mind very quickly was that lead was a byproduct of all of the days that came with nothing. All of the days that she did the activities and received nothing and felt down on herself for, she got that byproduct that day. That day was not the success. That was the byproduct. The success was that she did her days methodically, day in and day out. She was in the office, working in and on her business, and then bam, she got a lead. We need to celebrate the days where we get all of our activities done. I never celebrate a day where I land 4 appointments, because the reality is those 4 appointments I landed that day probably means I haven't landed an appointment for maybe a week or 2. I might not even have landed a lead for a week or 2. So as you end and as you finish up Ignite, you need to figure out your daily habits. And again, Ignite always starts off with the daily 10-4. Jump to it here. Figure out your tracking sheets. Have them on your desk. See, my screen blurry. Guys, this is my to-do list success every single day. Gosh darn it. I'll just pull it up on here. I have went through countless checklists. I've gone through, this works for this person. This works for this person. Hey, why don't you read the One Thing book? Why don't you read Shift? Why don't you read MREA? Why don't you read Jeb Blunt, Fanatical Prospecting? Why don't you read these things? Why don't you try this? Why don't you do this? Every single person on this Zoom call right now has been overwhelmed with the amount of real estate tools that the world has to offer. Keller Williams has a ton for you to offer, and that's going to make you feel overwhelmed. The coaching program has different tools and things from different places that I've found over the years from different companies that are going to make you feel overwhelmed. Now that you've gone through Ignite, now that you understand the basic principles of real estate, I encourage you to not look at all of this stuff as a mountain weighing on your shoulders, right? A mountain that we climb is something that's flipped upside up. We climb up a mountain. A mountain that we climb is not on our shoulders, right? If I go hike Long's Peak, I don't have Long's Peak on my back. I hike up Long's Peak. So take the mountain feeling, the pressure that all of you feel, and take it and flip that pile of stuff off of yourself and start tackling that pile one step at a time, just like you walk up a mountain. And that pile of stuff is different to-do lists, different tracking forms, different sheets, different designs for your presentations. All right. Understand that after you get done with Ignite, it's up to you. You are the business owner. You need to find what works for you. I'm going to go over a few things that I've found that worked for me, but I'm also going to show you why I stopped using them. It's because everything that we use, we need to believe in. As soon as the belief goes away, there's no energy behind it anymore, right? If you believe that open houses aren't working and you continue to do open houses the same way every time, I have to ask you why. If open houses aren't working, get rid of them, get them out of your mind and don't touch them again. Or tell yourself open houses aren't working and change the way you're doing an open house, because open houses do work. They just might not be working in the form in which tactic you're using. And so by tracking your numbers, by going through, Harry does it a very good job. Harry does a phenomenal job with you guys on Mondays at 9. That tracking is imperative. That is there for you to get into habits. I know Harry has a huge passion for you guys to succeed. And I know that when you guys are not hitting your contactual goals, he's not frustrated with you. He's not frustrated. He's frustrated for you. That frustration comes because we know as great business owners, if you're not putting in the efforts and context, you are going to fail. It's inevitable, right? What's the number one thing that sells a house? Price. What's the second thing that sells a house? People actually know it's for sale. It's the same thing in your business. You will never, ever, ever, ever be able to figure out what's wrong with your business if you're not tracking what you're doing. If you're not methodically practicing. If you pick open houses, you better not practice anything but open house scripts. If you practice door knocking and cold calling, you better not practice anything but those scripts. For sale by owners and expireds, nothing but those scripts. All right. By tracking that, you can track scripts. You can easily track scripts. You know how you can track scripts? Go find the scripts that resonate with you and start to learn them verbatim. Look at that. Look at those words. And until you can put the paper down on your desk and recite it word for word. Hello, my name is Bruce Carling and I'm with Keller Williams Realty. You see, I'm out in your neighborhood today to let you know about an open house that we're having. It's down the street on 123 Main Street, and we'd love for you to come. It's on Saturday from 9 to 11. Would you please be able to make it? That does not happen until you learn it verbatim. And then from there, you start to, if you track yourself, if you learn it verbatim, then it comes out like this. Hey, what's going on today? My name is Bruce. I'm a local agent in the neighborhood, and I'm actually canvassing the entire neighborhood today. So I'm not trying to single you out or any of your neighbors. I just wanted to let everybody know that we're having an open house, and it's going to be on Saturday from 11 to 1. And the reason why I'm out and about in the community today is one, to obviously invite you to your neighbor's home. You know, a lot of neighbors want to know kind of what their neighbors are doing with their homes and updates and stuff like that. But more than anything, the reason why I'm out here today is because I know for a 100% fact that that house is going to go under contract with a buyer, and there's going to be a buyer or maybe a few buyers who absolutely want to live in this neighborhood because of that house, but maybe didn't get the winning offer. So I'm out here to see if you or anybody you might know in this neighborhood might also be thinking about selling their home maybe in the next, 6 months to a year. Do you know of anybody? You see, by learning a script, it allows you to then think. It allows you to then tweak. It allows you to then be yourself and sound more natural. But you can't sound more natural unless you learn the first script. You got to learn it verbatim. You got to track yourself. You got to understand that once you learn a script and you go use it, it still may not be for you. Don't get frustrated by that, right? Fail often, fail forward. Hey, this script doesn't work for me. I can't figure out how to make it my own. I know it verbatim. I've used it verbatim in the real world, but my numbers, right? Tracking contacts to appointments or contacts to database ads is not happening. Why? Call your coaches, come, let us mastermind, let's play around with it. You may know a script verbatim and you might just need that little tweak to make it your own. We're very good at that. Use us. But the only way that we're going to be able to help you is if you come to us and say something along the lines of, hey, Bruce, I've learned this script. I'd like to run it by you. I'm using this in the world. I've knocked on 200 to 300 homes for this, but I'm only getting like maybe 2 to 3 database ads. Can you help me figure out why I'm not getting more leads and more ads from using this script? You guys come to me with that. I know we're both playing the game. You did your research. You didn't just come to me and say, hey, Bruce, I'm starting to think about door knocking. What should I say? You see, because then you really want me to do the research for you. And I'm happy to do that. But what I'm getting at is it's not progressing your business. When you progress your business, it's you that tracks. It's you that plays all in. It's a two-way relationship. Our coaching model is very much like two legs walking. I can't go any further if you don't take a step as well. Vice versa, if you take a step and I'm sitting on the sidelines, you can't move anywhere. But you see, two legs walk in uniform, meaning use your coaches, call them, but use us in a way in which we understand that you're also working on your business. One of the most frustrating things for me is when I ask a few questions and you guys have a few questions for me, and I start to realize the questions you're asking me is because you haven't tracked, you haven't tried, you haven't done it. You're simply scared. Just say that, hey, I'm scared to do this. Help me get over that hurdle. But use us before you get frustrated. Call us before the mountain is so overwhelming that you feel like you can't get it off your shoulders. Because just like our buyers and sellers, emotion makes people act. If you let yourself get too emotional around this industry, you may act in a way in which you don't want to. You may do things in which you might not want to. Call us. I'm happy to help. I have all the time in the world to help you guys. So figure out what you're going to track. Figure out what's important to you. I started off with dials. And I started off with dials for like a week. I couldn't stand tracking dials. The dials is defined as the amount of attempts you make just dialing a phone number. So it's not a two-way conversation, but it's you dial the phone number, you got a voicemail, you got a live person on the other line, or you got an out of service message. That's a dial. A contact is one in which you have a two-way conversation. Hey, Casey, what's going on today? How you doing?
Great. Thanks, Bruce. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. How's life?
Life's great. Life's
Nice.
great.
Nice. You playing any soccer these days?
Yeah, I am. Actually, I just started. I joined an adult league and I had my first game last week. It was great, but I was dying afterwards. So yeah,
Awesome.
it was good.
Well, great. Hey, it was great. It was great catching up with you. And I hope if you need anything, just always give me a call. It's always good to have a great friend. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thanks, Bruce. Bye.
Contact or no?
Yes,
Why?
because you talked to her
Cool.
about your business and caught up with her, made contact.
Did I talk to her about my business?
Bruce, I'd say the one caveat with that is it's
guess
a
you didn't.
contact if they already know you're in real estate and you've kind of been branded to them. But if
I like
not, then
this.
maybe.
Let's have a discussion. I like this.
I would think
Elaborate,
it's-
Ricky.
Oh yeah,
You
go
said
ahead.
if they know you're in business, that you would count that as a contact.
So if they're in my database and I've already had the conversation with them, like, hey, I'm a real estate agent, and they know that, on the second time I talk to them, I might not talk about it, but they still know I'm in real estate, especially if I'm like sending them emails and other things that have to do with it. So I would count that as a contact if they know I'm already in real estate. If they don't know I'm in real estate, then that was just a conversation.
Do you mind if I challenge you?
Yeah.
And I don't want to drive the dagger in. Didn't you have people in your sphere of influence that you told were in real estate and used somebody else?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Mm-hmm.
Just because our database knows we're in real estate does not mean that they yet are branded to us. So I think this is a great discussion to have because I think Carson is not neither right nor wrong. I don't think Ricky's neither right nor wrong. What it is you need to define it for your business. And the way that you define it will have different metrics. If Carson counts that as a contact, then I don't know if he's really going to be able to strive to get to 1 out of 20 contacts as a lead. He might be more running at 1 out of 40 contacts as a lead. Do you see the difference? If I talk to 20 people and ask for business, versus if I talk to 20 people and don't mention anything about business, where's my likelihood of business? Probably higher if I asked all 20 people for business. So that just means that if you're not going to ask for business on every phone call with people and still count that as a contact, just understand that your business may need to count more contacts. Your ratios might be a little farther off, but it's not wrong nor right. It's all about how you track your business. And when you call us coaches, we're going to ask you how you track your business, and we're going to ask you what you consider to be a contact. Because if Carson comes to me and that's the way he defines his contacts, and he comes to me and says, hey, Bruce, I'm having a little bit of a conversion problem. I'm having a little bit of an issue with, I'm getting about 100 contacts in a week, but I'm only getting about 2 to 3 database ads. And I didn't even get a lead the last couple of weeks. And then we go through this process, and I ask him how he's defining a contact, and come to find out that out of the 100 people that he talked to, he only asked maybe 20 of them for real estate business, or not for business, but brought up real estate. In my world, I'm basing his numbers off of 1 out of 20 now versus 1 out of 100. And that's just what we need to know, right? For my business, that's exactly what I did. I counted a contact as just a two-way conversation. Then as I progressed, I stopped looking at dials. I started focusing on contacts. Well, then I realized I was talking to a lot of people, and I only brought up real estate if it like kind of went down that path. And then I started counting contacts in which I would ask or go down the path of real estate. And now today, that's how I define my contacts. I don't have to ask for business. So some people, some businesses, some real estate people that you talk to in our offices, they count a contact as one in which there's a two-way conversation, and I directly asked for business. My business defines a contact as a two-way conversation, and real estate had to have been mentioned. I say mentioned because I don't need it to be talked about, but mentioned is fine with me. You guys are going to define your own. Define that. That's okay. Then my progression went from, look, I can contact people all day long. I can count those things, but I've realized that I need closings, and so appointments are what get me closings. So then I started counting appointments, and I realized that 50% of all appointments are usually no call, no shows or last minute bailers. 50%. When I was told that, I was dumbfounded. Well, it's true. It's true. If you're doing the right things, 50% of your appointments aren't going to show, call, or tell you that they're not there. Carson, you can attest a little bit.
Oh yeah, especially if it's like an appointment for a phone call. I mean, rings and rings and rings all the time.
Yep, exactly. Now, if you have an appointment, if you're tracking appointments and you're only working on your database, some of us has a luxury of coming into this industry from another job or from another place in life where we have 2,000 to 3,000 people that we can have in our database that know us. I believe that if those appointments, if all of your appointments came out of your database, you'd probably run at more of like an 80-20 or a 90-10 ratio of appointments held, because they know you, and half of them might love you and trust you. And those people are more likely to commit to their appointments. But to Carson's effect, a lot of appointments in which you capture a lead at an open house, a door knocking session, a circle prospecting session, an internet lead, those probably are on the other end of things. 70% of those may not show up or pan out, but the average is about 50%. So in my business, I wanted to do 52 closings a year. My goal was 1 closing a week on average. I thought to go back to have a self-employed business, but to get a paycheck every week, that was like the ultimate goal for me. Well, if 50% of appointments don't pan out, then how many appointments do you think I needed to do per week?
At least two.
At least two, right? But if 50% of appointments don't pan out, I needed to at least hold two, right? Okay, there's the difference. Set an appointment and hold an appointment. So my business went from dials to contacts to I need to set 4 appointments a week with the hopes of holding 2 appointments a week. Because 2 appointments a week, I know that if 50% of those appointments don't transact with me, that I would still get about 1 closing a week. So that was a great goal for me. And that made it more simplistic for me, you guys. After that, I could care less whether I did 50 contacts and got 4 appointments or 200 contacts and got 4 appointments. I needed the appointments to be set. Then I needed 50% of them to hold. And here's the other metrics and ratios I want you guys to write down, know about, and have in the back of your head. The ratios start with appointments. 50% of appointments that you set will hold. And then 75% of appointments that you have will sign an agreement with you. And then 75% of the ones that sign an agreement with you will close on a property. So if you just do quick math, 75 and 75%, that means 50% of appointments held will turn into a closing. I almost just skipped the step of 75% of them will sign an ERB or an ERS with me. Do you guys see that math? I made this job very simple for myself, and I'm going to teach you guys to do the same. 50% of appointments set will actually hold, and 50% of appointments that actually are held will turn into a closing. And that's how I was able to get to about an average of 1 closing a week. My top in my entire career was 51. I still didn't hit my goal. I stopped looking at that goal because 51 was extremely difficult to manage. I had no life that year. But by being that simple allowed me to walk through my mind and show, what do I strongly agree with? What do I believe to be true? You see, I said it earlier in our session. I said, we have got to do a better job at celebrating our days based upon the action items that we did, not based upon the byproducts of the actions. Make sense? Here's what I mean by that. If my action items were to set 4 appointments a week, and I set 4 appointments in the first 2 days, I'm done. Everybody understand that? Bruce is done with his week when he sets 4 appointments. Some weeks I didn't do anything on Monday. Some weeks I didn't do anything on Tuesday. Some weeks I hit happy hour at noon on Wednesday. And some weeks I'd have to grind for 10, 12 hours on Thursday and Friday. And that's when I also realized that just because I had a weekly action item thing to do, I could only give myself time off if I did it up front. Because not doing anything Monday, Tuesday caused me to be lethargic on Wednesday, which caused me to panic on Thursday, which caused me to feel like I had no life on Friday, which caused me to do open houses all weekend on Saturday and Sunday. It wasn't the life to live, you guys. I was doing a lot of business with running that life. I told myself taking off Monday and Tuesday was my weekend because I kept working every single Saturday and Sunday. But then I started to get into business. I started getting methodical. Mondays, I had to come into the office. So I volunteered at the office to take on the whole office's scripts program on Mondays and Wednesdays from 8:30 to 9. I did that because I couldn't discipline myself to get into the office. How many of you guys have a hard time controlling your mind? Every single person in here. Because this is, everybody says the most powerful source on the face of the earth is water. I think that's true. The most powerful force on the face of your earth is your mind. See the difference? This earth, it's water. In your world, it's your mind. I've learned, and I talked to Carson about this the other day. I've learned that I have to trick myself. I have to put things on my plate that I may or may not want to, but for the better of my life and my good. So by setting up and volunteering at the office to hold scripts practice on Mondays and Wednesdays, guess who was at the office on Monday and didn't take a day off? This guy, who also then changed the way he did his Sunday. I no longer did open houses on Sundays from 3 to 6. I was an open house guru, you guys. I did an open house, 2 of them on Saturdays, 2 of them on Sundays, and 1 afternoon a week, like clockwork. Because I came out here, I had no database. I'm not from this area. I had no friends. I had 1 family member, and that family member is also a real estate agent. So I didn't even have 1 database member in my entire life when I started in real estate. It was awful. But open houses, because I loved open houses, because it is the only lead generation source. Mark my words, the only lead generation source in which you have to be reactive. Now, some people have challenged me on that when I say that, and they say, well, Bruce, internet marketing is reactive. No, it's proactive. You had to pay money. You had to create the ad. You had to be proactive in that. At an open house, I don't have to put up signs. I don't have to do anything. I can just walk in that home and wait for people to come in. Maybe you could call it proactive in that I had to advertise it on the MLS, but I don't even do that. My transaction coordinator does that. It was the only thing that caused Bruce to get out of his comfort zone. The Bruce you see today is not the Bruce that started in real estate. You couldn't get me to call anybody. You couldn't get me to knock on a door, and you couldn't get me to go to a networking event unless I was loaded on booze. I hated it. I'm shy. I don't want to talk to people. And through open houses, I realized I have a knack for talking to people. Through open houses, I realized I had a lot to work on. I had people coming into that open house and asking me questions, and I didn't know what to do. And then I realized I needed a notebook. I have pretty much a notebook or a sticky note of some sort, some way, shape, or form at my office, in my car, by my nightstand, and in my book bag. And I did that because every single time I fumbled and failed, I wrote down what it was I failed on. When I say, hey, it's scripts practice time, who has something to work on? I say that because I used to have a book of things to work on when I came to script practice. I want you guys to do the same. Get into business. Be the best professional you can be. That license law stuff, those courses you just went through, Jake, forget about them. They're nothing. They don't teach you any of this. So I learned to have a notebook. I learned that I wanted appointments. I learned that I needed to hold 2 a week on average, which means I needed to set 4. I learned that if I set 4, I was good to go. I learned that I needed to do open houses because I could not make myself do anything else. I still had to force myself to do open houses. They sucked. They're always on the weekend. That's why I love when I finally got to the place where I was willing to do cold calls and door knock. I could do them during the week. I didn't have to be on the weekends doing every single weekend. I wrote down every place I struggled. That notebook for me was my everything, because when we fail at something, we get down on ourselves. And when we get down on ourselves, an emotion goes through our body. And that emotion does not allow us to actually sit right there and practice what we just fumbled through. So to write it down and to go into on a different day, in a different light, in a different environment, with different people who can help you, it will help you. I encourage the notebook thing because you guys will all fumble and fail. I still do. I still have a notebook by my bed. I still have a notebook by my computer. I still have a notebook in my car. And I write down every time that I mess up how I wanted to say something. I mess up when I know how to answer somebody's questions and I end up saying, you know what, that's a great question. Let me get back to you about that. Because if I'm not going to deliver it well, I'm not going to state it. Because if I don't deliver it well, I look like an idiot. I look like a novice agent. People don't want to work with people who are hesitant. I assure you that if you go into your dentist office and they tell you need to have a root canal, and your dentist, and you look over and you just hear, and he's just shaking and his utensils are hitting each other's things, and you go, is everything okay? And he goes, well, you see, yeah, no, everything's good, everything's fine. We're just gonna go ahead and get started here. So the first, oh crap, I forgot. Here, you need to put this little bib on so that way I don't get stuff on you. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. Oh crap, I need to put the glasses on so that way if things fly out of your mouth, they don't get in your eye. How confident do you feel? You don't feel confident at all. Your clients will feel the same way. It's the largest purchase or the largest sale of their life typically. If you're not practicing, if you're not writing down where you fail and fumble and working on it, you're losing out on business that you don't even know is in front of you. All right. So as my progression goes,
This is my failure book.
Yeah, fail often, fail forward, and fail fast.
That's my failure book.
Where'd you get that? I love that.
I bought it when I was up in Fort Collins from Joe Lynn.
Nice. My email signature says that, you guys, because I learned that I hated failing out in the real world. A lot of you guys, one of the biggest reasons why I get real blunt with some of you guys is because I know for a fact that failing here in this safe environment of other real estate agents is way less painful than falling flat on your face in front of a $600,000 listing in which you just mucked up 2 words and totally melted down and could not recover. A $600,000 commission check in my world should be worth every ounce of your energy to practice here in a safe environment. I just saw Ken, Ricky, can we practice a script later? You guys need to be doing that. You don't want to practice a script with me every day. Just like Ricky and Ken won't want to be scripts partners for every single day. You don't ever get, you're only practicing on one personality, one interaction. Practice with multiple of you guys. Fail often and fail forward, but more than anything, be willing to fail in front of us here. Be willing to fail one-on-one with each other. The day that you fail out there in the real world, it's going to hurt way more than you ever thought it would. I don't want to get you guys there. That's why I get so blunt. Practice your scripts. Volunteer. When I say who wants to work on something, you can simply say, hey, Bruce, I haven't practiced this. I'm not ready to work on this, but I would like to hear this. If nobody else in the room knows what script you're talking about, I'll do it. I'm still practicing, you guys. I still have to keep my skills sharp. Just because Michael Jordan became one of the greatest players in the NBA history didn't mean that at the end of his career, he didn't practice. If you guys are starting off in this real estate world and you're not practicing, I don't know how you can ever truly believe that you'll become a professional. I know that sounds harsh for some of you guys. I know that cuts for some of you guys, but I don't know how. And the other reason why that cuts is because you don't know how either. Chad, get a hold of me. If I'm not calling, then we can meet and practice. We have so many people in our own program willing to help and do it, because I know for a fact, Chad, you failed at a listing presentation. You fumbled through. You know it don't feel good. Ricky, same thing. He had people that were close to him in his life buy homes without him because what he was projecting to his people wasn't necessarily the right stance. My own sister called me so excited one day. It was like Saturday or Sunday. She called me so excited and said, "Hey, Bruce, Aaron and I think we found a house we'd like to put an offer on. What do we do now?" I said, "Wait, what? Did you go to an open house?" They said, "No, we called the listing agent and they showed us this house and they just sent us over a bunch of documents we'd like you to take a look at because we're thinking about making an offer on this house." So you want me to look at this other agent's documents? Couldn't figure it out, you guys. And that's when I realized I failed, because I told my sister I was in real estate and thought it was good. She gets it. I'm in real estate. If she wants to buy a house and I'm in real estate, what's the natural progression? Call me. That's wrong. Now, when I tell people I'm in real estate, it sounds something like this. "Hey, what's going on, Jake? Hey, I want to let you know, it's good to meet you. And I'm actually in real estate. And, one of the things I realized about real estate is it's a different animal. You see, I thought that like 90% of my time was going to be helping people buy and sell homes. The reality is about 10% of my time is helping people buy and sell homes. The other 90% of the time, I'm actually looking for people to buy and sell homes. So I know that we're just kind of getting acquainted. Do you have a trusted real estate agent in your life that you refer business to? You see how different that is from being like, "Hey, what's going on, Jake? Man, it's nice to meet you. What do you do for a living?" Jake says, "I'm a bulldozer driver." And I say, "Oh, that's cool. I'm in real estate." And he says, "Oh, that's cool. Let's play some basketball." I say, "Yeah, that's cool. Let's play some basketball." He's not going to think of me when real estate hits his world, you guys. So quit convincing yourselves. If you're convincing yourselves, don't convince yourselves that by having that latter conversation that you're doing the job. It doesn't work. If your friend says, "Yeah, I'm a used car salesman now. Let's go play some basketball." 5 months from now, your car craps out on you and your friend has not called you back, doesn't have anything going on Facebook, doesn't send you an email about his car salesmanship, and you need a new car, you got probably a 50-50 chance that you're going to think about your friend being a car salesman and going to him first to see if he can find you something that you like. But if he says, "Hey, Bruce, yeah, actually, I'm actually decided to be a car salesman, and I'll be honest, I never really even thought about, doing this, and I never really realized how many cars are sold on a daily basis. We get inventory in all the time, and sometimes we have exactly what people are looking for, and then sometimes it's the next week that it comes in. And so if you're ever looking for a car, I encourage you to do it before you need a car, because if you're looking for something specific, I can keep my eye open for it and maybe, thus get you a great deal on something before it actually hits the car lot. So if you ever think about needing a car, man, just let me know. And then 3 months from now, I'm calling him again. "Hey, what's going on, man? Dude, this game is wild. I didn't realize how commission-based it is. I didn't realize how cutthroat it is, but I'm enjoying the crap out of myself, and I'm learning a lot about cars, but more than anything, I'm learning a lot about people. So I know that you said, you're not looking for a car, but do you know of anybody in your life that might be looking for a car that I can help? Because I'll be honest, there's a lot of car dealers at our office that are kind of shysters. And if your friends come in, I want them to meet with me and not, somebody else." You see how that car salesman is doing their job just like we need to do our job? Set up your days. Understand what makes you tick. Go through the process of figuring out, is it contacts I want to focus on? Is it contracts I want to focus on? Is it appointments? Is it appointments set or is it appointments held? On Monday morning, what do you do, Casey, for lead generation?
Well, normally I would start calling expireds, but Mondays I am actually taking off. So Monday's my relaxed day because I have had a crazy weekend and I actually relax on Monday. So I start to get a little bit more into, lead generating on Tuesday and the rest of the week, but I like to focus on expired listings.
Okay. So on Tuesday, so if you take Mondays off, on Tuesdays, you do expireds.
Mhm.
And then what about Wednesdays?
So I do expireds on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I hope to get a listing appointment on Monday or on Fridays or Saturday mornings. So my goal is to call 20 expireds on Tuesday, 20 on Wednesday, and 20 on Thursday.
And where do you get your expireds from?
The MLS, I just listing search, and I like to search not the last couple of months. I actually search back in August of last year. So that way, if they were trying to sell around May or April, like springtime, summer, I call them up if their house hasn't sold. And that's kind of like the target population. Because a lot of times if it just expired, they're more than likely to list with the agent that just expired their listing again. So that's the trouble I'm coming with, but I like to focus on a few months back. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Carson? What do you do? for-
Mondays, if I don't jump on to the meetings, I just get going at 9:15 to 11:30, doing circle prospecting and following up with whatever happened over the weekend.
Circle prospecting, what do you mean?
So I call around. Right now, I'm doing the one that's going to be coming up. My listing is coming up in April. So I call around that
Perfect.
neighborhood and the other neighborhoods around that.
Cool. Tuesdays?
Tuesdays will be probably the same thing, finishing up with that, following up from the day before, and from 9:15 to 11:30.
Wednesdays?
Wednesdays I hit this, so whenever you're done talking, I get on it for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and doing the same thing.
Okay. Thursdays?
Same thing, 9:15 to 11:30.
And just circle prospecting?
Yeah,
Fridays?
the Fridays are my appointment days that I try to send up all of my appointments for Fridays. Hit those. If I don't have any appointments for that day, then I'll probably do an hour of probably circle prospecting again and prospecting for my buyer to find them in off marketplace.
Okay.
On those days.
Where do you fit in your time to talk to your database, your sphere, and leads that you need to follow up with?
So that's usually after 11:30. So about 11:30 to about 12:30, I'll do all my follow-ups and stuff.
Okay,
With text
cool.
messages.
That is very similar to what I started with too. I would do 9 to 11 cold. And then I would do my sphere of influence afterwards. Because remember what I told you guys was my sphere of influence was nobody. I grew based upon open houses. And then once I got more comfortable with open houses, I started circle prospecting. And I would do that pretty methodically. The only days that I would take off from circle prospecting were probably, I think it was Wednesdays back then. So Monday, Tuesday, I would circle prospect, or I'm sorry, Mondays would be my open house follow-up calls. And then Tuesdays, I would start circle prospecting and gathering information for the next open houses that weekend. Because I always had a couple of open houses, so I always had a couple of neighborhoods to circle prospect around. And then as my database grew, I realized that my times in the afternoon started getting longer and longer because I had more and more people to call in the afternoon, to the point where open houses grew my database to pretty much what you see today. I have 200 people in my database. I don't really want more than 200 people in my database, and that's for a reason. And when I say people in my database, I have way more than that on my Facebook. I have way more than that in my phone. I have way more than that on an email list. But my database or my sphere of influence is 200. Stephen Covey, I'm a firm believer in his writings and his passages. Stephen Covey states that it's proven over and over and over again in the history of time that a human, on average, if I were to just give you a blank piece of paper, can remember and hold about 150 relationships in their life. So if I sat you down in a room with a pen and paper and said you have 2 hours to write down 150 names, most of us can do so. If I told you to write down 250, most of us wouldn't be able to. Even though most of us have more than 250 people on our Facebook page. Most of us have more than 250 people in our phones. So I took that mantra and I ran with it. Remember, your business is your business. What you believe in, done right, will work. And I believe that I wasn't going to be able to effectively create powerful relationships if I went over 200. See, I thought about it. And if the natural ability is 150, then I needed to press that natural ability. By pressing that natural ability by 25%, I could work through and get to about 200. Coupled with CRMs, coupled with tracking and management systems and programs. That helps, right? And so to this day, I think the last time somebody challenged me was, I think I was at 182 people in my database. I like when my database goes down. I don't want to spend money, time, and effort on people who don't know, love, and trust me. Now, I like my database to go up too when I meet people that need to be added to it, but I'm very selective on who gets added to my sphere of influence touch program. I have thousands of names and phone numbers if anybody wants some, because I'm not really working them. They're kind of just set up on an auto touch program. But the people that I want to be in relationship with, that's just where my business went. And over time, I realized that by circle prospecting for 2 hours a day, I started not being able to hit all of my database folks. And then that's when you'll start to realize that the majority of everybody's successful real estate business comes from your database over time. That the waste of time was circle prospecting around open houses versus actually talking to people that I was building relationships with. So I went on that route for a long time, like Carson's on. And then I realized I was missing an opportunity. I started to have people that I was in relationship with. I started to see them on Facebook post their new house. I started to see them on Facebook already in a different city. Hey, we just made it to Massachusetts, Colorado. You were great to us. We're excited for new adventures here. What? They were a seller lead. They're supposed to sell in like a year. They sold now. Call them up to congratulate them. Hey, what's going on? You guys, congratulations on your move to Massachusetts. That's amazing. That happened a lot sooner than you guys thought. Yeah, actually I talked to my company and they said that they would promote me now instead of waiting until next year. Crap, I lost out. And then, like I said, for me, 200 people in my database is very much what I wanted to work on a 45 touch or 42 touch program with. But going through that, I had no time. So then it turned into Mondays, go in for scripts practice with the office. And Mondays, I'll be honest, I was still working a lot during the weekends. I realized on Mondays, I am garbage when I try and circle prospect. I gotta get out of that Monday blues. Like, I don't know what it was. So I turned to handwritten notes only. Monday, I would do 10, 20, didn't really matter. Take my time with it. I'd build my call list for the week. I'd set my open houses. I'd be calling agents. All of the easy stuff happened on Monday for me. Tuesdays was my open house follow-ups. One of the things that I realized is that almost everybody that does open houses calls their open house leads on Mondays. Well, my open house leads were getting called by other agents. And I realized that if you get calls by 3 agents and it all goes to voicemail while you're at work, it looks like a daunting task for you to call back all of those agents on Monday. And so you just swipe and delete their voicemail. Because I'm not buying a house. I just got off work. I have the Monday blues. I didn't want to go back to work. Life hits. I got to take my kids to school. I got to go home and make dinner. I failed to do laundry over the weekend, whatever it is. I started calling my open house leads on Tuesdays and I started getting calls back. Well, actually, I started calling open house leads on Tuesday mornings. And then I realized like 4 to 6 was my spot. Actually, like 4 to 5 usually. And they would answer and they would talk to me and they would call back and we'd talk about what their plans were for the next weekend. I talked to them about open houses that I already had set up on Monday to invite them to. And I realized they weren't calling agents back on Mondays. I started my script with, hey, I'm sorry I didn't follow up with you on Monday. I just know Monday is kind of, that day that everybody kind of gets back in the rhythm of things. And I heard so many people say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, gosh, Mondays just suck, don't they? Because if they came to my open house on the weekend, they'd probably have a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. Anyways, what I'm getting at, you guys, and all the stories that I'm telling you is, if you're not analyzing your business, if you're not figuring out what's working and what's not for you, you guys got to continue to tweak, continue to mastermind, continue to meet up with each other, continue to get those tricks, those tips, those things. Carson has been with us now for how long? About a year?
Yeah, almost here in June. Yeah.
He is lead generating just like he gave you his setup, and he is still on these calls to learn and grab nuggets from. I bet you anything he has plenty of hours of listening to my voice going, this is boring, I already know this, he said this 100 times, to the place where I say something that I haven't said before and he goes, oh yeah, okay, there's a nugget. I don't care if I was just bored for the last hour, I got one nugget out of it. Carson and I, we read the same style of books. For me, if you start to read the same style of book, you start to hear the same things over and over and over again in the same way. But I'm not reading the book to learn the entire book. I'm reading the book to pull one nugget out, to pull two nuggets out, to pull something out that it helps me. Ricky, how long have you been with us?
Just under 2 years.
And you're still on here. Why?
Because golden nuggets, sometimes they drop.
Right, exactly. And sometimes, you guys, I'll say something in a way that doesn't resonate with you today, but then all of a sudden I say the same thing a couple months from now, and it hits you like a mic drop session. You don't understand why it's so profound, but 2 months ago it meant nothing to you, right? All of those things is what I'm getting at. It's tweaking them. Carson knows exactly what he's going to be doing every single week. So does Ricky. So did I, but I also learned that I tweaked it over time. If I came in every Monday and I just dreaded it, Mondays were a vein to me, couldn't stand it. So why should I sit there and continue to do the same thing over and over and over again to make my life miserable? I started handwritten notes, and those were so easy. They got me back into the rhythm, back into the groove. If I had a long weekend, I didn't have to talk to anybody. It was just me and my pen. I could do it from home. I could do it from a coffee shop. I could do it from the office. Tweak your business. Understand that no restaurant doesn't tweak. You ever seen a restaurant never change their menu? No. You ever seen a restaurant never change their price? No. You ever seen a restaurant ever change the layout of their menu? No. I mean, you ever see a restaurant not? They all do it. They all got to do it. And we have to do it. They change the way their seating are. They change the way their bar looks. They change the drinks. They change this. They change that. They put new decor up. They take old decor down. They might have open mic nights for a while, and then they might have some sort of stand-up comedy. They might bring in a band. They might, you name it, right? If your business isn't doing the same, you're not running a business. Doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting to get better results, is insanity. On Wednesdays is when I really started learning that open houses were lead generation. So if I could tell you that I took Wednesdays off, that would be the day that I took off. I didn't really take off. I just didn't lead generate super methodically. Wednesdays were my sphere of influence day. They were, building, tweaking the open house flyers, printing the open house flyers, practicing buyer's consults, listing consults. Wednesday, it's like Wacky Wednesday for me. Kind of whatever I wanted to do, as long as I did Monday and Tuesday well. Because the reality is on Tuesday, I didn't have many open house follow-ups to call. If you got 10 open house follow-ups, the reality of all 10 of them answering is rare. And if all 10 of them answer, if you get really good at this job, you can get 10 contacts in about an hour to 2 hours. So I had plenty of the rest of the day to talk to my sphere on Tuesdays. Wednesdays, I'd finish up my sphere for the week. So you guys know in your Command database, if you set up people on a, set them up on a smart plan for a quarterly call, you'll notice in my classes, I teach, if you have 200 people in your database and you work 50 working days in the quarter, okay, let me run this backwards for you, 360 days in the year. Go ahead and take out weekends. There's 52 weeks in a year. That means there's 2 weekend days per weekend. That means there's 104 days to take off. So now I'm down to 261 days. Bruce likes even numbers, call it 260. Well, I kind of wanna go ahead and, you know, take off. I wanna take off for vacations. I wanna take off some afternoons. Some weeks I'm going to be sick. Some days I'm not going to want to work. Some days I'm whatever. I boiled my weeks down into, or my quarters down into, on average, 50 working days for myself. If I have a database of 200, that means every day that I'm actually lead generating through my database, I have 4 people to call. See how manageable that can be broken down to? So if I have 4 people to call on average, 4 times 5 is 20 people. This is why, as much as my CRM told me, hey, on Monday, Bruce, you need to call these 4 people. I didn't call them. I just let the task go overdue. I did my handwritten notes, and that was my action item for the day. And I went home, and that was a win. Tuesday, Bruce, you have 4 people. Well, no, I need to do my open house follow-up first. If my open house follow-up takes me too long and I have too many appointments in the afternoon, then those 4 people are going to go overdue. So now I've got 4 people from Monday overdue. I've got 4 people from Tuesday overdue. Wednesday, I need to get busy. But see, even getting busy on Wednesday means I need to contact 20 people. So I'd contact Monday's folks, Tuesday's folks, and Wednesday's folks. And then in your CRM, you can always look ahead to see who's tomorrow and who's the next day. And then I would call those 8 people. And so on Wednesdays, that was kind of my sphere of influence day. I'd set a lot of appointments on Wednesdays for the rest of that week, that weekend, and into the beginning of next week. That was definitely a great appointment setting day. That day was the day that I really wanted to catch up and set all of the 4 of my appointments. But then if I didn't, I had Thursday, Friday. And then Thursday and Friday turned into, all right, Thursday, the weather's going to be nice. So this week, I'm going to door knock around my open houses on Thursday. The following week, Thursday looks crappy. I'm going to go ahead and cold call around my open house. Oh, you know what? Friday looks crappy. I'm not going to door knock at all for these open houses. I'm only going to cold call. Or like spring weather right now, I'm probably looking at Thursdays and Fridays going, man, it's been a long winter of cold calling. I think I want to get out there and door knock a little bit more. Either way, I knew what my lead generation plan was for each week. And if I did them and got no results, no extra database members, no leads, no possible people who want to be a real estate agent, that was still a win for me, you guys. It's very hard to time manage ourselves in this industry. And since it's so hard, I don't understand why we don't celebrate when we stick to it. When you stick to your time blocks, results happen very quickly. All right, let's jump back into the slide here. Accountability. I know we're talking a lot on how to structure your weeks, how to structure that. I've given you guys a lot of examples. But the other thing about being a business owner is not just tracking daily, but understanding when and why and how to look at your weeks. So there's a productivity tool called the 411. All right, the 411 basically stands for there's 4 weeks on average in each month, and each month builds up to the year. So you have your one goal for the year. You can call it transactional, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But whatever that one goal is, it needs to be able to be broken down into a monthly period. And then from each month, you're going to have action items set forth each week. You see, your action items in the weeks are what causes the byproducts of our industry, which causes us to hit our goals for the month and the year. The byproducts are those closings or those dollars that come into your checking account. Let me see if I can show you a 411. Here we go. All right, great example of a 411. Enter your annual goals. So this is a brand new agent, and here's an example. Add 2,400 contacts to my database. Have 25 closings this year. Can you guys still hear me? You can? Okay, my earbud died. Yep. 25 closings for the year. So that means if you take 2,400 divided by 12, there's 200 contacts to my database each month. And I need to go on 16 listing appointments. How about now, Carson? Good. We're not going to do this math, but did you guys see how the contacts went from 2,400 to 200 contacts, but closings didn't go from 25 closings to 2.5 per month? No, 2.08 per month. They went to listing appointments, and that's because of those conversions that we were just talking about. 16 listing appointments is going to, or should turn out to get to about 25 closings a year if you did 16 listing appointments a month. Because each time you get a lead, 1 out of 10 leads pretty much transacts with you. So you go on 10 of them, hopefully you get a listing out of 1 of those. You go on 6 more, hopefully you get a listing, maybe you won't, maybe you will. And that will help you get to about 2 closings or so a month on average. None of it's perfect science, these are just averages. But here's where it really breaks down. And this is what your business needs to do. Week 1 of the month, so we're talking about April. I need to preview 10 properties. I need to add 50 contacts to my database. So 200 divided by 4 is 50. Call 10 Mets, go on 4 listing appointments, go on 4 buyers appointments. 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 is the 16 listing appointments. But they want 25 closings for the year, and they said they wanted to go on 4 buyer appointments. Carson, why are buyer appointments not listed up here in the monthly goal?
I'm not sure. Sorry, I was half listening.
No, you're good. You're good.
Sorry.
The reason why 4 buyer appointments are not on the monthly goal is because if you read the MREA, there is no focus on buyers. Buyers are actually the byproducts of listings. We lead generate for listings. There's a reason why in the MREA there's a triangle and not a square. The triangle says leads, listings, leverage. That's a very, very, very important subject to look into, or chapter to look into in the MREA. Leads, listings, and leverage. It's simply because on a normal average, buyers are a 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 3, 1 to 4 ratio. I'm going to call it 1 to 4. A 1 to 4 ratio versus sellers, meaning for every hour that you spend with a seller, you will equate that to 4 hours that you spent with a buyer. It sucks. So why would we ever want to do 4 times the amount of work for the same amount of money? Nobody would. So focus on your listings. Your buyers will just be a byproduct. They'll be there, they'll come. A lot of agents, that's why a lot of agents hire people to go show homes. That's why a lot of agents hire buyers agents, because they don't want to work with buyers anymore. And that's why a lot of agents will have way more constraints around where they service, what service areas they are. If somebody calls me and says, hey, Bruce, what areas do you cover? My response back to them is, it depends. Are you talking about a buyer or a seller? I will take a listing in Castle Rock all day long. I will not take a buyer in Castle Rock, because it's 4 times the amount of effort, which means I'm driving down there probably 4 times the amount as if I were to take a listing for the same amount of money. So for buyer appointments, you're obviously going to get closings, but her closings are based upon listings. This agent's going to close more than 25 deals if they continue to go on 4 buyer appointments a week. But we don't focus on buyers. We only focus on buyers when we have buyers. Don't focus on lead generating for buyers. Now, here's why week 2 is left blank. Here's the psychological nature to this tool. My goal is to add 200 contacts to my database, so 50 a week. This week, I accidentally only got to add 40 to my database. Well, if I add 50 to my database this week, and this week, then I'm not going to hit my monthly goal, because I'm going to have a negative 10. I'm going to have 190 in my database. So the reason why in this tool you never fill out weeks 2, 3, and 4 is because you got to get through week 1. And if you had 40 people to your database there, then this bullet point for the next week is going to say add 60 people to my database. Let's say you add 70. Then you're back over here on week 3 to where your bullet point says add 50, so on and so forth. This one single tool allows you to not get behind, or if you get behind, it allows you to realize that you absolutely are doing your business a disservice. How many people in here said, it's just January? Oh crap, the end of February is here. You know what? It's still the beginning of the year. Like, we just had Christmas. We just had New Year's parties. I already quit my New Year's resolution, but we still got the whole year. The whole year. It's only February. Tomorrow it's gonna slap you in the. Is it tomorrow? No, Friday. It's gonna slap you in the face when you see April Fool's Day hit you. And now we're 1 quarter into the year. It's not, oh, we have 3 quarters left, because what you were not doing in January is not showing up in April. Or what you were doing in January will start to show up in April. You see, dismissing each month, that's the difference between your student going from a D to an F, or a C to a D, or a B to a C, or an A to a B. That percent is 8%. 1 month is 8% of the entire year. 2 months is 16% of the entire year. You see how dismissing a month just because it's the beginning of the year is detrimental to your business? Just like adding 50 to my database each week without realizing when I have a deficit is detrimental to my business. It's just 1 week, I'll make it up over here. It's just 2 weeks, I'll make it up over here. Can you imagine getting into week 4 and looking at your goal and saying, oh my, I've only added 50 in the last 3 weeks. My deficit now is 150. Who's going to put for what kind of person's going to walk into week 4 going, I got this? They're going to walk into week 4 going, I got to get to work, and I'm about to have 10, 12-hour days, and that's not what anybody wanted. And I've slacked off for the last 3 weeks. I don't know if real estate's for me. No, real estate's for everybody if you want it. You just got to follow your weeks. You got to do it. You got to do those action items. You got to have game plans like Ricky and Carson set up. And I only pick on them because they were on the camera. We got plenty of other people in here. Ed Hansen has a beautiful program that he uses every single week. We got Chad Amos in here. I know for a fact he's got one. I haven't interacted with Amy and Ron enough. Jackie's just getting started. Jake, brand new. Willow's got a full-time job. But every single one of us is going to have those habits and those weeks. So if you need to mastermind with me, let me know. Happy to do so. Questions on the 411. Okay. Now that we're
Bruce,
through. Oh, yep.
I guess my question to bring up for everybody would be, so in the case where you're working part-time or full-time at another gig and you're working on transitioning into real estate, how do you set up a calendar around that 411 to also fit having to take care of responsibilities, let's say with another gig?
Yeah, really good question. So if I have another job and I want to transition out, I have to probably, in order to kind of quantify what I need to be doing every day, I probably want to have a deadline of when I want to hypothetically be able to leave my job. It's hard when you're new because you don't really understand the mindset around what you do today shows up 90 days from now. Ricky, you have a perfect example of it. You said you got a listing lead that's going to go live, right? And that lead came from November, December, I think is what you said. So when you want to leave another job, the fact of the matter is that for your first 90 days, you need to understand that you're going to feel like you're going nowhere. So I would never set my sights on leaving my job within the first 90 days unless I have 6 months of reserve in my bank account. So your first 90 days when you want to leave a different job is doing something methodical before you give up. And usually you can only pick one thing because of the limited time constraints that you have. I coach with a gentleman, his name is Kyle O'Brien. He's up in our Fort Collins office. He works for Constant Contact from like 6 a.m. to 2:30 every day. And we set him up on a game plan to get 20 contacts a day in from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. He can't do it yet. He's working on it. He's getting to be about that 7-8 spot. So he's getting in about 7 or 8 a day. But here's what I showed him. If you get, let's say you get 10 on average in a day. And if you use the basic metrics of 100 to 1, 100 contacts to 1 lead, 10 leads to 1 closing, if you do an average of 10 contacts a day, then that means it's going to be 20 weeks before you actually start to close on properties on average. Let me break that down for you. 10 a day, 50 a week. So for every 2 weeks, you hit 100. So for every 2 weeks, your goal would be 1 lead. So you need to do that 10 times in order to get 10 leads. If it's 2 weeks times 10, there's 20 weeks. So for those of you out there that are talking to 10 people a day, statistical average says you can't get frustrated with yourself for not closing a deal within your first 3 months. Follow? Because unfortunately, 3 months is 12 weeks. So you're going to be jumping into that 5-6 month mark of before you start to get that traction. And I say traction, you guys, because the reality is Kyle hasn't even been with us for maybe a couple of months, and he's got a buyer lead right now. And he's only been contacting, 10 a day or 7 or 8 on average. So you will still get business, but what you do today will really start to show up in 90 days. Okay. So if I'm transitioning, I just want to know those metrics. If I can fit in 10 a day, then I need to look to the future and I need to say, okay, realistically speaking, I'm probably going to have a closing in the next 20 weeks or so. Well, now I need to look at my reserves. Do I have 1 month of reserves, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months? Will 1 paycheck, how many months of reserves will that get me? I'm very much on the 6 month reserve train because let's face it, when you quit your other job, there's a sense of freedom and relief on that front. And then there's a sense of pressure to perform because now you're in a commission-based industry. And so some people that quit their job and give themselves, they don't actually start off full bore. They kind of have that relaxation for a second. Then they get in their mind around how scary this is and how much they just quit a steady income. And let's face it, when you're lead generating and you're nervous, or when you're fearful, or when you're thinking about money, or you're thinking about, a relative that just went ill, a car accident that happened in your life, a major breakup, a death, a divorce, that really can taint your lead generation. If I need money and I can't pay the bills in a month, and I know that if I get a deal this month and it closes next month, I might be able to pay my bills. That's how you're going to come off to your clients. We call it commission breath. Ricky, man, is there any way that you can just talk to a lender? Like, you really need to get going on this, but like, can you talk to a lender? I'll tell you what, why don't I call a lender right now? Why don't I have them call you? You're just vomiting all over them, your commission breath. And they're going to feel that, and they're not going to appreciate that. No one wants to be forced into buying or selling a home. So
on this topic, so what I hear you saying is, obviously, if you're working on transitioning, make sure you have some setup, funds aside before you go full bore into it. Make sure you're working those, first 3 to 5 months, and you have to set a schedule aside apart from your other work, just like we talked about with time blocking. And then in that schedule, for the first, let's say you don't have any database, like you were saying, that first 5 to 6 months, are you strictly just focusing on lead gen in that time that you put aside? Or, and the reason I'm asking is because for me, as I was transitioning into trying to do full-time or doing full-time real estate, I had to work in the part-time, 2 days in the work week. I would say, okay, Monday would be my lead gen day. Wednesdays is my lead follow-up day. Fridays is my work on the business day. And that's how I had to break up my schedule. That way I was still hitting the lead gen, which is really important at the beginning. But then I fell off the board with the follow-up and working on the business on the back end, 6 months into it, because I was so focused on just trying to get leads and having commission breath.
mm-hmm.
So I think, I guess that's my question around this is, would you suggest breaking up that schedule to also fit in, make sure you get that lead follow-up time as well as working on your business? It can't just all be lead gen time.
Yes, with some caveats.
Okay.
Yes. One, first and foremost, the way that you did it, and I apologize, I didn't know you were doing it this way, but the way that you did it, in my world, I rarely see work. Here's where my days would have been. A little bit of lead gen on Monday, a little bit of follow-up on Monday, and a little bit of practice and systems on Monday. Same thing Wednesday, same thing Friday. The major reason behind that is because you want to get into a habit of lead generating. Habits are the things that we do consistently on a semi-daily basis, right? If you brush your teeth every single day, that's a habit. You get dressed every single day, that's a habit. Some people take showers in the evening and some people take showers in the morning. Those are habits. Some of you start your car before you go out to it and get it warm, and some of you get into it cold. Those are all habits. So if you lead generate on Monday and do follow up on Wednesday and do systems on Friday, by the time Monday hits again, it's been 6 days since you've done your habit. It takes longer to get into the rhythm and the jive. It takes more effort and energy to get over the fear, right? The fear goes away from cold calling, door knocking, and talking to strangers about real estate the more that you do it. But more than anything, it's the more consecutive days that you do it. So that would be my suggestion to Ricky. I know he's on a phone call right now, but if I'm transitioning, even if I'm not transitioning, that goes for you guys every single day. I really wouldn't say, okay, Mondays, I'm going to practice scripts all day long. I'm going to do what Bruce said. He didn't want to lead generate. He had his Mondays. No, that's not what I'm saying. I did my handwritten notes. That was my lead gen. I practiced scripts on Mondays. That was my practice. every single day had a component of those things. Now, like I said, my open house follow-up was on Tuesdays, but I had a task reminder in my database for other leads that had different follow-up campaigns. And those I would call on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We got some questions here. You're welcome, Casey. See ya. Go crush it on floor. Floor shift is awesome. I'm working with a lead right now who was a floor lead from 2 years ago. I
Nice.
forgot about him. I totally forgot about him, you guys. He called me out of the clear blue sky.
We can't hear you, Bruce.
No.
I can't hear you, Bruce, but thank you. I have to go.
You're welcome. Get out of here.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. I struggle with follow-up. So anybody that wants to get together and discuss, give me a jingle or shoot me an email. Chad, I can't appreciate that. You guys need to latch on to Chad and do those things. You cannot learn everything from this guy. I have a style. It's weird. It's crazy. It's mine. But no, yeah, floor time is beautiful. And I love that our offices are really getting that ramped up. I love that our leadership we finally have leaders, you guys. David Russell, we finally have leaders who understand where our offices should be. The last leader that we had rented these office spaces that you guys kind of know the last four. There's nobody walking by that office. Nobody. The one now in Fort Collins, people walk by all the time. People have been coming into that office. And so if you're not signing up for floor time, you're doing yourself a disjustice. The other thing about floor time is it causes you to go to the office. There's something about the energy. There's something about getting out. For those of you that work from home, I see Carson, he goes on hikes all the time. He knows how to get out of that mind. You can't just be a recluse in this industry. The floor time's awesome. And Chad, yeah, follow-up, fortune's in the follow-up, and it's the vein of our existence sometimes. Because sometimes we don't follow up enough because we don't want to bother somebody. And then as soon as we follow up exactly what we're told to follow up and what the frequency is, we get somebody who sounds a little annoyed over the phone. We start to feel like this is too much and we don't do enough of it. Mark my words. If you are in need of a car or a vehicle, you're never going to mind when a used car salesman calls you to let you know what just hit the lot that might work for you, ever. But if you're looking for a car and you're just perusing and you really aren't set on it, you're just kind of figuring out life or what you want to buy in the future, and the car salesman calls you every single day, you're going to sound a little annoyed, but you're probably still going to listen to the inventory he's about to talk about. So with follow-up, just understand that whenever you get somebody on the phone that sounds a little annoyed, end with, hey, I wanted to talk to you about kind of the frequency you'd like to see. You know, I pride myself on communication, and the reality is that questions about real estate hit us at random moments. Would you like me to call you every week or every other week, or what would be your preference? See, if you can spot that out, that hesitation, that frustration in their voice, you may get things like, oh no, this is fine. You can call me every week. I'm sorry, I'm just a little over my head with work today, and I'm just a little frustrated with everything I got going on. The boss breathing down my throat. Boom, it's not about you. But fortune is in the follow-up, and a lot of us lack that follow-up because we don't really understand what frequency should be at, and we don't understand when somebody's frustrated with us or frustrated just that we caught them in a bad moment. We don't ask enough questions. We don't set enough expectations, and we don't ask our clients what kind of expectations they like to see. Chad, if Chad needs that, let's help him out. Does that answer your question, Ricky? I know we kind of got sidetracked a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, no, definitely answered my question. Thank you.
Yep. Leverage the MREA models. So one of the things that I'm going to start doing is now that Ignite is done, before we start another batch of Ignite, since I've recorded everything on here, is we're going to start to have some of these Wednesday classes be just solely around the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, the organizational model. And I'm going to start actually calling it those models because I've done classes on all of those things, but I don't call it the model. I just labeled the topic for something that intrigues you guys to get over there. Lead generation model is my lead generation class. The economic model is the one where I talk about how to wrap your head around real estate and getting your head in the game. I think that's the class I call it, get your head in the game, what you need to know about real estate. We're going to go kind of start to go back through those. We're going to also do a leads listing leverage class. The next couple of classes, the next couple of Wednesdays are going to be advancements of Ignite. They're not going to tag off of Ignite. They're going to be advancements. So if you haven't done Ignite, I encourage you to do that, because if you're going to attend these next couple of Wednesdays, they're going to be a little bit higher level. They're going to be for everybody still, but they're going to be a little bit higher level. Revisit your goals, right? You guys can read through this, but we're gonna start wrapping up here. I think you guys get the premise here. Be business owners. Tweak things. Set up your weeks. What works for you will not work for this person. What works for this person won't work for you and won't work for me. What works for this person might work for you. Half of it, or all of it, or some of it. Continue to adapt. The last thing I ever want to see somebody do is get frustrated, bury their head in the sand, and never change. And then tell me real estate's not for them. That would be like my daughter riding a bike and constantly doing something that I know that if I just help her and get her past that, she'll be able to ride a bike, versus me as a father allowing her to get off her bike and go, you know, Dad, just don't really feel like learning how to ride a bike. It's not for me. That's what I hear if I hear somebody say real estate's not for me without them telling me they gave it that honest to God try. The only way to give it the honest to God try is to track your goals, track your things. I'm very big on I sometimes grade myself, but I'm very big on looking at my business and going, okay, and I can do this each day. I can do this each week, each month, each quarter, and each year. Every day that I think that I had a bad day, or on the flip side, every time I think I have a great day, I grade myself. Would I have fired myself, wrote myself up, did my job, excelled at my job, or give myself a raise because I excelled so much? If I can grade myself with that every single day, I kind of can keep in alignment with where I'm at. Because if I didn't hit my contact goal, maybe I did my job, but maybe I need to write myself up. If I crushed it and hit 4 appointments that day, probably give myself a raise. If I hit 1 appointment that day, I probably did my job and maybe then some. Maybe I'll give myself a pat on the back, get some recognition. That's just how I've learned to grade myself. The reason why I learned to grade myself like that is because we simply are in this for ourselves. Ain't none of you gonna pick up the phone for me, and I ain't gonna pick up the phone for you. Because the reality is if I pick up the phone for you and I get a lead, that lead knows me now, not you. None of us all of us can help each other, but none of us are gonna pay each other's bills. None of us are going to have the same dialogues in our head that we tell other people. We are our own worst self-critic. You guys gotta look inside and analyze and see exactly how you want your weeks to be set up, exactly how you want your business to be set up. You need to understand that each day that you feel like you did something great, I want you to evaluate it. Just because you were busy all day doesn't mean you had a great day. And vice versa, just because you felt like you did nothing all day doesn't mean you didn't hit your goals all day. Know your numbers. We talked about contacts. We talked about conversion rates, but we'll kind of hit home on that again. If anybody wants to write it down, I'll say it slow. 50% of all appointments set actually end up being held. All held appointments, 75% of them will result in a signed exclusivity or a loyalty agreement, or an ERB or ERS, listing agreement. Out of all the people that sign an agreement with you, 75% of those will close and transact. That is exactly how you can dive and work numbers backwards into figuring out how many people you need to contact every single week. So to wrap this class up, let me just double check to make sure I hit everything. Cool. To wrap this thing up, I want to go through and I want to give you guys I want to give you guys a real good example. If you want to do 12 transactions this year, let's figure out how many contacts you need to make, because this formula works with pretty much everything. So if I want to do 12 contracts this year, and I know that 75% of everybody who signs a listing agreement with me will close, then what you do in your calculator is you do 12 times 1.25. Everybody following? It's not 1.75, even though it's 75%, you need to take the inverse. So if I'm going to close 12 homes and 75% of those, or not 75% of those, but out of all of my agreements, 75% will close, then I need 15 people that sign agreements with me throughout the year. So if I need 15 people to sign agreements with me, and we know that 75% of all appointments turn into signed agreements, then we need to do the same thing to this number. 1.5, or I'm sorry, 15 times 1.25. We can't ever go on a fractional appointment. So I came up with 18.75. So in this business, my goal would be to go on 19 appointments. So if I have to go on 19 appointments, I need to set how many? Double that, right? I can't go on half, right? I can't go on 37 and a half appointments. My goal is 38. So I need to set 38 appointments with the hopes of going on 19, with the hopes of signing 75% of them, with the hopes of 75% of the people that sign will get me to my 12 closed deals. So let's take this even further. If I need to go on, or if I need to set 38 appointments, how many contacts do I need to make? Anybody shout it out?
3,800.
3,800. Why?
Because one lead per 100 contacts.
One lead per 100 contacts. Perfect. If you guys haven't done this business or you haven't tracked your business, you need to start off with the benchmark of 100 to 1. If they are a lead, you see how synonymous Carson knows that lead and appointment are synonymous for me? If you're a lead, then you're going to go on an appointment with me. Because if you're a lead, how can you not? If you don't want to go on an appointment with me, I'm going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, help me understand this. It sounds like you guys want to buy a house, but we're not willing to meet. I'm not sure exactly how you expect to buy a house if you're not willing to meet. And that's when you'll hear them say, well, we're most likely going to rent for another year. Okay, I can chalk them up as a lead for next year, right? I got a lead today, but it's not a lead for this year. It's a lead for next year. They're a database member. So Carson hit the nail on the head. 3,800, 100 for each. That's your benchmark. And that's why if you track your business, you're going to start to see, do you run at 100 to 1? Do you run at 78 to 1, 50 to 1, 35 to 1? Best ever was like 1 out of 17 for me. But I started with 1 out of 100 because you have no skill set. You don't practice scripts. You don't know your consultations. You don't know any of that. So it's harder. It's harder when you first get started. As you get better and better and better, you learn better scripts, better ways to answer questions. You learn how to crush it at the appointment, those types of things. So 3,800, I said there was 50 working days in my quarter. So now here's where you guys can go a little rogue here. You guys want to go based upon, you know, weeks in the year to figure out how many contacts per week you need. That is easily doable. For me, I personally like to break 3,800 divided by 4. And that's my 4 quarters. Oops, I did times 4. So each quarter I need to do 950 contacts. I break down my quarters into working days. My working days, I like to take, when I was in real estate, I like to take every Friday or at least 1 day a week off of lead generation. I usually tried to. It doesn't always work, but 50 days. 950 divided by 50 equals 19 a day. If you want to close 6 deals a year, then you might want to talk to about 10 people a day. If you want to close more than 6 deals a year, you can't talk to 10 people a day and expect to close more, according to the metrics. You could. I know some people that start off in this industry, and I mean, I bet you Ken on here, he doesn't run at 100 to 1. He just started with us probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago now. I'm not even sure. He's got like 3 or 4 referrals. He comes from business. He owned his own painting company. He knows how to market. He knows how to talk. He knows how to do that. So his baseline, he might not even look at 100 to 1 because I think he's better than that. I've heard him make phone calls. He's got this natural ability. Everything I didn't have. You pissed me off, Ken. Joking aside. He might not run at that, but that's your base. That's your base model. So this is why everybody's business is different. I just told you guys that I focused on appointments to get to my 52 deals a year that I wanted to close. I also told you that I work to get to 40 contacts a day to hit that 50. Well, if you double this to, 19 a day to get to 12, then 40 a day would get you to 24. That's because when I first started in the industry, I was pretty much at 100 to 1. It took me about 100 contacts to get to 1. And then that's when I realized the power of scripts. For a half an hour a day, 3 to 4 days a week, instantly cut my conversion from 100 to 1 to 50 to 1. And that's why I could talk to 40 people a day to double that 24 number. Make sense? Because I literally I cut my amount of contacts in half for 1 week. I know this is high level, you guys. We are done with Ignite. You guys are blasting off or whatever the heck it says. This is high level. If you guys ever need a session on numbers or anything like that, just put the request out there. I think we could do a whole 2 hours on numbers alone. What are contacts? What are ratios? Why do I say sometimes 100 to 1 and 1 to 10, but then other times I go with appointments to agreements to closings? It's because both formulas pretty much get you to the same place. But you won't really know that until you know how to do those formulas. We can work on that too. Any questions? Willow, good to see you. I didn't say hi yet.